Hello, and greetings to all you fans of RPGs and of Dungeons & Dragons. This is RPGmodsFan, and in this video, I will be reviewing and discussing the Dungeons & Dragons module C3, The Lost Island of Castanamir. The C3 module was written by Ken Rolston and published by TSR in 1984. The Lost Island of Castanamir is Mr. Rolston's first published work for TSR. Ken Rolston is also known for a number of RPG products. He has contributed quite a bit to the game Paranoia. First published in 1984, Paranoia is a dystopian science fiction tabletop role-playing game. Ken Rolston was the lead designer for Bethesda's computer role-playing game The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind and its expansions. He was also the lead designer for The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. The C3 module has its beginnings as a tournament module. The first tournament version of this module was called The Lost Island of Castanamir, the Mad, and was played at the Origins 1982 convention, a convention that TSR boycotted. This module was meant for player characters between the levels of 1 to 4. This module was written for AD&D First Edition rules. The Dungeon Master will need to do a little work to convert it to 5th Edition rules. TSR kicked off their competition line, also known as the C-Series modules, with a bang in 1980, with the production of C1, The Hidden Shrine of Tamauachin, and C2, The Ghost Tower of Inverness. Both of these modules I have reviewed in my previous videos. 4 years passed before the next competition series module appeared, i.e. C3, The Lost Island of Castanamir. Personally, I do not find this module appealing. In this video, I will try to focus only on discussing the module, and I will try to keep my negative comments on it to a minimum. As with any tournament module, it comes with its own pre-generated characters, 8 in total. My preference is for the players to use their own characters. This way, should the DM wish, he or she can use the pre-generated characters as NPCs. The setting of the module is very generic. It can be placed in most any high fantasy campaign world. The module's plot hook can be read as follows. A couple of centuries ago, Castanamir was a high-level mage, a hero in a goblin war, and a leader of the Mages Guild. He became ostracized and was called Castanamir the Mad. He exiled himself to his island on the Sea of Pastures. Then one day his island just vanished. 5 years ago, in the Sea of Pastures, an island mysteriously appeared. Anyone or ship that got too close to the island never returned. A young mage who knows of Castanamir's legend hires the player characters to investigate the island. The module then states, the player characters anchored their ship a distance away and swam to the island. The sea was rough, and from the island, when they looked back, they saw their ship was sinking. At the center of the island, the player characters discover a shallow depression with a stone door. When opened, the player characters see a descending stone stairway. At its bottom is another door of an unfamiliar material. I will now be discussing the module itself, and this video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a dungeon master who will be running this module for their players, or are a player who already played through this module and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video. Displayed is the dungeon maps of the module. As you will notice, none of the rooms are connected. The best way to describe the C3 module is that it is a teleport maze. Each set of doors are magical portals or teleporters. When player characters go through a set of doors, they teleport to the next room without realizing they were teleported. Backtracking through the same set of doors they just went through will teleport them to a different room. This leads to a confused mapping process. I do not have a problem with this. Teleport mazes have been used before in other modules, but probably not to this extent, though. However, I do see many problems in other areas. The biggest is, what if any of the player characters look back? What do they see? What if the lead character shouts something? Do the player characters who have not went through the doors yet hear that shouting character? My simple solution is to make it obvious that the doors are magical portals by having vortexes at their thresholds. My next suggestion is to print out or make photocopies of the maps. Then take some scissors and cut out each of the rooms. This way it will be easy for the dungeon masters to show which room the party is going to. As an example, let us say from the starting area, the player characters decide to go through the doors on the right side of the room. They will end up in the north side of the game room. However, their orientation has now changed. Unless the player characters have a compass, will they notice the change? Now, let us say the player characters go through the doors that are at the bottom orientation of the map. They will end up in the south side of a circular room. Again, their orientation will have changed. Now, let us say the player characters decide to backtrack. When they go through the doors they just came out from, they will end up back in the living area where they started from. Again, their orientation will have changed. Castanamir's abode is inhabited by a variety of humanoids and magical constructs, all in a haphazard fashion. There are 18 rooms in total. Most have been ransacked by other survivors who made it to the island. By the way, Castanamir himself is nowhere to be found. Also, I think this module is more appropriate for slightly higher level characters. Otherwise, TPK, Total Party Killed, becomes very likely. I will now mention a few notable rooms. Within the living room, where the player characters start in, is a watermelon-shaped metal object that is moving back and forth across the floor. The moving metallic object is a cleaning golem, which reminds me of the Roomba. Unless attacked, this cleaning golem will ignore the player characters. Likewise, the player characters should ignore the cleaning golem because it is equipped with a deadly disintegration ray. By the way, if the player characters try to exit from the door they just entered from at the start of this adventure, they will end up on the eastern side of the lounge. By the way, there are 15 hobgoblins that have barricaded themselves in this room. You can think of the fantasy room as the D&D equivalent to Star Trek's or the Orville's holodeck room. The illusions created depend on which part of the room the player character is located in. As an example, a heterosexual male fighter stepping into the area labeled as love, the love boat, okay, anyway, might see the woman of his dreams has been captured by a dragon and is crying out for his aid. There are 4 new monsters in the C3 module that make their debut in the D&D game. Jing-Watsim are extraplanar creatures that can take on many forms, such as a glowing ball of lightning, an inanimate form, usually a magical weapon, or an animate form of an animal or monster. Feral Slasher is an ugly, fast-moving creature. Fremlin is a gremlin with wings, basically a flying gremlin. Iron Man is a miniature iron golem, but not as deadly. The drawings, maps, and art of the module were done by Jeff Easley and David S. LaForce. For the art and drawings that I have not yet displayed, I will do so towards the end of this video as a montage. Roll credits. Displayed are the credits found within the module itself. There were too few reviews of the C3 module on both Amazon's and DriveThruRPG's websites. On Amazon, there were only 5 reviews. On DriveThruRPG, there was only 1 rating, and the rater did not bother to leave any comments. As I stated earlier, on Amazon there were only 5 customer comments. I will only partially read 2 of them. This one sentence summarizes the module as a whole. It is a very middle-of-the-road module and easily the worst of the C series. The other reads, "The Lost Island of Castanamir has some interesting twists, but overall this is not one of the better D&D modules of its era. There are some nice twists. A challenging adventure for low-level characters, but the overall plot is pretty generic and the world building is simply not memorable." Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. I love many types of role-playing games, especially Dungeons & Dragons. Inclusive in my wayward love is computer role-playing games. I have also created a playlist of classic D&D modules composed of videos from various YouTube channels. I noticed some gaps in it, hence the reason for this video, which is to fill in one of those gaps. So, in the foreseeable future, to fill in some more of those gaps, I plan on reviewing those missing D&D modules. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.
Behind these eyes, secret signs. Behind your walls, broken doors. A single rose, a thorn will grow. Tell me your fears, they'll stay right here. You're in so deep, feel my skin on top of yours. Can we begin? You're in so deep, you share too much. Loving me is a little run. I want you to love me. I want you to hurt me. I want you to save me. I want you to love me. I want you to hurt me. I want you to save me. I want you to save me.
Dive in. You might never see the bottom, but the mystery is awesome. Don't let me be forgotten. A single rose, a thorn will. Tell me your fears, they stay right here. You're in so deep, you feel my skin on top of yours. Can we begin? You're in so deep, you see too much. Loving me,